Hello, my name is Keith Snyder, an industry analyst here at CFRA Research. Today I'm going to be discussing the communications and collaborations market and how it's been affected by COVID-19, but also explore whether COVID-19 will continue fueling growth in the future. At its core, communications and collaborations technology simply is messaging tools, video conferencing, any tool that enables employees to work more efficiently and also enables employees to connect even if they're physically not together. At the early onset of COVID, we saw some pretty dramatic increases in both internet traffic, which increased 25%, but also just the number of employees working from home. 62% of Americans were working from home at the end of March, compared with just 7% pre-COVID. This drove a huge increase in equipment sales, with webcams increasing 179% as employees were forced to get Zoom, WebEx, all these things set up in their home office, but also monitor sales doubling, again, as they were setting up their home office. We can see just by the Google Trends data how COVID quickly drove adoption and just interest in these tools. Searches for things like WebEx, Zoom, Microsoft Teams spiked quite rapidly as COVID spread throughout the country. And those levels have actually stayed fairly elevated to this date as lockdowns are looking like a more likely scenario, with cases rising throughout the country. Just for reference, that spike we saw in Slack back in 2019 was simply related to their IPO as people were searching for the company just ahead of its IPO. With this rapid rise in both interest and adoption came a huge expansion in the market caps of these companies. Zoom especially, it could be considered the poster child for COVID-19 driven growth, with a five-fold increase in their market cap year to date. DocuSign and RingCentral also saw similar rises, but not to the same extent that Zoom did. Microsoft Teams, who's actually been a very big winner from this, saw 115 million daily active users at the end of October, compared with just 13 million 15 months ago. Zoom, in their most recent quarter, saw a 458% increase in the number of customers with more than 10 employees, while WebEx by Cisco had 20 billion minutes of hosted meetings in April compared to just 7 billion in February. So what do we think the new normal is going to look like? Well, according to the survey from IDC, about 44.6% of people are currently working from home. That was up from just 14.4% before COVID. But enterprises are planning to return to the office once a vaccine is released, with 22.2% of employees staying at home even after a vaccine has been released. While this is obviously higher than that 14.4 pre-COVID level, it's still half of what we're seeing right now. So we think a lot of the tailwinds that we're seeing will simply dissipate once a vaccine comes out. So who are the winners and losers going to be post-vaccine? Microsoft Teams, with its strong integration with Office 365, has been a big winner from this. It's been very easy to deploy. A lot of enterprises have adopted it, and at its most basic level is free with an Office 365 subscription. So that has made it very attractive for enterprises of all sizes to use during this pandemic. Cisco has positioned itself with not only its WebEx, but its strong hardware offering has made it a one-stop shop for companies who want to simply have a single vendor for most of their equipment. They can get equipment, services, security, all of which are offered by Cisco, make it a very attractive option for companies. DocuSign, as customers were forced to adopt e-signature solutions, we think a lot of these companies will continue to use these solutions, just given now that they've seen the benefits of an e-signature solution in terms of ease of use, cost savings. We think that even if they return to the office, they will continue to use this tool. In terms of the losers, Zoom is up there on our list. Zoom has experienced incredibly strong growth, but we're seeing that growth rapidly decelerate once a vaccine is released. This fiscal year, we're expecting around 250% revenue growth, but that level is going to drop to about 25% next year. So we think this rapid deceleration, while it has certainly benefited from the outbreak, this rapid deceleration is going to be simply a huge negative for the company. Slack is another loser here. Slack has been losing ground to Teams for a number of years now, given how easy Teams is to deploy and how well integrated it is with Office 365. We think that is simply going to continue post-vaccine, and actually Slack is suing Microsoft for anti-competitive practices in the European Union, alleging that the integration with Office 365 is actually a monopolistic use of power, basically. So with that, I'd like to thank you for spending your time today, and I hope you found this interesting. Stay safe and stay healthy.